sister got pregnant by my husband while living with us and wants me to leave so they can be a family, but now she feels cheated because my husband owns nothing. I'm 34, and I let my sister Julie, 28, move in with me a couple of months ago because she was in a really bad financial situation. Julie had lost her job after her company shut down. 2 weeks later, she got seriously ill with West Nile virus. After talking to my parents, I decided to let her stay with me for a few weeks so I could take care of her, monitor her recovery, and help her save on rent since she obviously wouldn't be able to work for a while. She was probably at her lowest point back then, and I was the one who stepped up because our parents don't live nearby, and she doesn't exactly have many friends in a position to help her. It was just something I would do for any family member or friend, help them in a time of need. And she repaid me by having an affair with my husband. On top of that, she had the audacity to tell me that I should move out so they could start their happy little family because she was pregnant. This happened a couple of days ago. Julie asked my husband and me to sit down in the living room because she had something really important to tell us. I thought she was finally going to move out since she had been recovering pretty well in the past few weeks. I assumed she was about to tell us that she was finally going back to work and would be out of our lives soon. Instead, she told us that she and my husband had been having an affair for the past few weeks and that she was now pregnant. When I looked at my husband, I saw that he was just as shocked as I was. Clearly, this was not something she had discussed with him before telling me, which explains a lot. Anyway, after she dropped the bomb about being pregnant with my husband's baby, she added that she understood this was probably a shock to me and that she was really sorry this had happened. But at the end of the day, the past couldn't be changed. Now, she would really appreciate it if I could move out because she would feel very uncomfortable being around me in her current condition. I was furious, but I didn't show it. I just calmly told her that I would not be moving out because this property is mine. If anyone had to leave, it would be her, and she could take my cheating husband with her. They could go start their happy family wherever they wanted because I was filing for divorce, and I didn't even want to see them again. I spoke as calmly as I could, kept my anger in check, and tried to handle the situation with dignity. They had already blindsided me, so I wasn't about to give them the satisfaction of seeing me lose my composure in front of them. After I told her this was my house and I wasn't leaving, she told me I had to. Apparently, she thought I was joking. But then my husband told her that, no, I wasn't joking, and he explained that he was a stay-at-home husband and always had been. Apparently, he had lied to her about everything in the beginning. For context, my husband and I have been together for 8 years, married for 5. A few months after we got married, I decided to take a risk and start my own business. Thank God, it did really well, so my husband and I agreed that he could stay home and work as a writer, something he enjoyed as a hobby but could now pursue full-time. For the past 4 years, he's been at home working on his big novel and handling household chores. We don't have kids, so it's not like he had much to do. The house and everything else belonged to me because I technically paid for it, and we both agreed it was fair for me to own everything. I bet he regrets that now. After he told Julie that he actually owned nothing and had lied to her about everything, she lost it on him and started screaming that she'd been scammed. She called him a fraud and a liar. As entertaining as it was to see her freak out on him, I honestly didn't care at that point. I just wanted both of them out of my house. I had to step in, get them to stop yelling at each other, and tell them to get the hell out of my house right that second. I wasn't going to give them time, I just wanted them gone. My husband is relatively smart. He knew there was no way he could come out of this looking good because nothing is more important to me than my self-respect and dignity. I was never going to forgive a cheater. So he quietly went to the bedroom and started packing. Julie, on the other hand, got on her knees and started begging me, saying she would do anything to make things right but that she needed a place to stay. She said I couldn't throw out a pregnant woman, especially when she was having a baby that would be my nephew. The fact that she brought up family was what really pissed me off. So I grabbed her by the arm, forced her to stand up, dragged her to the door, and then physically shoved her outside. I was rough with her, but I didn't care. Hearing her say we were family after what she had done infuriated me. We weren't family when she was screwing my husband, but now she wanted to use that as an excuse? Once she was outside, she started begging me not to do this, but I slammed the door in her face. Then I went to the guest room, shoved all her things into her suitcases in a messy, careless way, and within minutes, I threw them all outside with her. I told her to get lost or I'd call the police. She kept crying, but I just shut the door and went back inside. A few minutes later, my husband walked out with his bags, telling me how sorry he was. I pretended not to hear him. Julie kept sobbing and begging on the porch for about an hour after he left, but I put on my headphones and completely tuned her out. At some point, I realized I couldn't hear her crying anymore, and I knew she had finally left. That same night, I called my lawyer, told them everything that had happened, and said I wanted to file for divorce. I planned to tell my friends and family later, but the next day, I got a call from my parents telling me that what I had done was horrible. To my parents, I had been cruel and heartless toward my sister, someone who had already been through so much lately. I was shocked because my parents have always treated Julie and me equally. It's not like she was the favorite or anything. But hearing them defend her like that did not sit well with me. They told me that they knew she was pregnant and that I couldn't throw her out in that state, especially when I knew she was between jobs and still recovering from a serious illness. They said it would take time for her to get back on her feet, and she had no one else here who could take care of her as well as I could. Then they had the audacity to say it wasn't her fault. My husband had seduced her. So I asked them, what sister? I don't have a sister. Then I told them I had every right to kick her out because she was the one who had an affair with my husband. They kept going on and on about how harsh I had been with her. I got tired of listening and just hung up. We haven't spoken since. So, do you think I was wrong for kicking my pregnant sister out of my house? Update 1. I know some people think kicking a pregnant woman out of my house is horrible, but keeping her here after everything? That's just insane. Luckily, most people agree that I did the right thing and that she needs to figure out her own living situation. Moving on with the update, unfortunately, all of this has hit me really hard. But I can't just take time off to process it. I'm the boss. I have to put on a strong front and keep going. So at work, everything has been business as usual. But the second I get home, I break down because, honestly, I'm emotionally wrecked. I've been holding it together these past few days, but now it's really starting to hurt. My lawyer and I filed for divorce a couple of days ago, and I think my husband will be served soon. I know he won't contest it. He knows me well enough to understand that if he tries, I'll make sure he regrets it. But at the end of the day, none of that changes how much this hurts. Winning the divorce won't magically make me feel better. I just can't wrap my head around why, after 8 years together, he would cheat on me with my own sister. I truly believed we were in love. I honestly thought we'd grow old together. But now, I'm questioning everything we've had over the years. Maybe she wasn't the only one he cheated with. Maybe this is just the first time he got caught. Even the thought of that breaks my heart, but there's nothing I can do except accept it and move on. Since I kicked him out, my husband has been the only one who hasn't tried to contact me. My parents have, and so has Julie, but that's different because I know they just want me to let her back in so she can keep freeloading off me. It's even crazier that my parents are taking her side right now. In my original post, I mentioned how my parents never had a favorite child. They always treated Julie and me equally. But now, honestly, I don't even know what to think. I had no expectations from Julie. We were never best friends, but we didn't have a bad relationship either, which is why I agreed to help her out and let her stay here. We had a spare room anyway, so I figured, why not? My parents wanted me to help her too, so I didn't see a problem with it, because that's what family does. At least, that's what I thought. What I never expected was for her to betray me like this. I never thought that someone I'd been helping for months would stab me in the back. But with my parents, it's a different story. They've always been fair and reasonable, so I expected them to be upset with Julie. And to be fair, I think they are. From what they said, it's clear they're not happy with how she handled things. But they keep insisting that what's done is done, and now we just have to accept it and move forward. I don't know what's wrong with them, but they've seriously disappointed me with how they're handling this. I think I've lost all the respect I had for them, and I don't see myself getting it back anytime soon. Right now, I'm emotionally drained, and mentally, I'm just trying to focus on work. My personal life is in shambles. I haven't even told my friends about any of this yet, but I know I'll have to at some point. After all, my husband and I share a lot of mutual friends, and I'd rather they hear it from me than from him. I have no idea what he's telling people at this point. I don't know what to expect from anyone anymore. For now, I'm just trying to focus on a couple of things. First, making sure my work doesn't suffer, which I won't let happen. And second, handling the divorce. I'm 90% sure he won't contest the terms since I'm being pretty fair and reasonable, but there's always that small chance he might try something. Right now, everything feels uncertain. So I'm getting all my paperwork in order just in case. Other than that, I'm just trying to keep my head clear because the last thing I need is to spiral. That's not an option right now. But honestly, venting about all this here has helped a lot. And I seriously appreciate all of you who reached out, commented on my post, and shown your support. You have no idea how much it means to me. Update 2. As I expected, after being served, my husband reached out to tell me he wasn't going to contest the divorce. He said the terms were fair. He sent me a text saying all of this, and in the next one, he told me that over the past few days, he'd been trying to think of a way to apologize to me but couldn't come up with anything that didn't feel weak or insincere. So, he decided to just get it off his chest and say he was really sorry, via text. He told me he had lied to Julie just to impress her because lately, he'd been feeling weird about not owning anything and having to rely on his wife financially. We don't even have a child, so he couldn't even have the dignity of being a stay-at-home dad. He felt useless. And since his novel wasn't progressing well, he felt like he had wasted 4 years of his life on something that was going nowhere. He had been feeling particularly down about it but couldn't even admit it to himself, let alone talk to me about it. He said he felt really bad about himself, and when Julie showed up, before he could even think about how messed up it was, he started lying to her about everything, trying to impress her. Not long after, they were sleeping together. He thought it was just going to be a one-time thing, and even though he felt guilty, he couldn't stop himself. He needed some kind of escape from everything he was dealing with, and that was his way of coping. But then she got pregnant, and we had that awful conversation 2 weeks ago, after which everything went to complete hell. He told me he was truly sorry for everything he had done. That he had destroyed everything we had, but he promised that this was the first and only time he had ever cheated on me. He swore it had never happened before and said he really needed me to believe him on that. Maybe, someday in the future, if I could, he hoped I'd be able to forgive him for everything he did wrong. That was the message. And after reading it, I ended up crying because it was just another reminder of everything I had lost. I thought I had a man I loved, who loved me. But in the span of a single day, I lost all of that. Trust me, it's not easy to deal with. I know that anyone who's ever gone through a divorce or been cheated on probably knows exactly what I'm talking about. I could sit here and say a bunch of awful things about him just to make myself hate him right now, but at the end of the day, it still hurts. And I hate myself for crying over that message. But at least, after I was done crying, I found the strength to block him without responding. Honestly, as upset as I was about everything, he didn't deserve a reply. I wasn't going to forgive him, especially not now, when everything is still so fresh. After a while, though, I actually started feeling a little angry about everything he had said. Because all he had to do was talk to me. I never, ever made him feel bad for choosing to stay home and work on his novel. I'm not a very creative person. I've never been into writing or anything like that, aside from now, since I really need to get all of this off my chest. But I respected his creative side. I never had a problem with him staying home. Maybe his fragile male ego just couldn't handle it. Maybe other people made comments. Maybe he just grew resentful. But after 8 years together, the least he could have done was tell me what he was feeling. We got married to support each other, and I would have been there for him. Maybe we could have figured things out together. But he chose not to. He chose to lean on Julie instead. And that's how we ended up in this mess. The more I think about it, the more disgusting and pathetic it all seems. The fact that he lied to her about so many things just to make himself seem bigger and better is pathetic. I loved him for who he was, but that wasn't enough for him. This will just never make sense to me. At least with Julie, I get her motive. She wanted my life handed to her without putting in any effort. She thought she could get it by getting pregnant and moving in with my rich husband. So I can just choose to erase her from my life now. In a few months, I'll be done with the divorce, and then I'll never have to see him or think about him again. Update 3. It's been a couple of days since my last update, and things had been pretty quiet. But this morning, my parents showed up at my house. I found it strange because, for the past few years, ever since they moved to my dad's hometown to run the family business with my uncle, they've hardly ever visited me. Usually, it was Julie and me who had to go see them. So the fact that they had actually taken a flight to come see me was already a big deal. But I knew they were only here to talk about Julie. That's why, when I opened the door, I told them that if they were here to talk about her, I really didn't want to hear it. After all, there's only one Sunday a week, and I wasn't about to waste mine going over the same thing again. I had already said everything I needed to say, and so had they. There was nothing left to discuss. I also made it very clear that I would only let them in if they apologized to me first. So they could either apologize right then and there or leave. My boundaries were firm, but my parents told me they had come specifically to talk to me about Julie. They said we had to talk about it because the way I was treating them wasn't right, and the way I was treating Julie wasn't right either. To them, we were family, and we handled things differently. Once again, they were pulling the family card. And just like with Julie, I lost my patience with them too. This is not how families treat each other, at least, not the kind of family I'd want to have. Though I will give them that in this family, we sure do handle things differently, like my sister sleeping with my husband and me kicking her out of my house. That's definitely different from how normal families operate. I completely called my parents out. They kept trying to stammer and come up with arguments, but I didn't even let them speak. I shut down every single excuse they tried to make. By the time I was done, my mom was literally in tears. But they were in my territory. I could talk to them however I wanted, especially since they had decided to bother me first thing in the morning. This was a conversation they should have been having with Julie, the one who actually did something wrong, not me. Anyway, after I finished yelling at them, my mom was crying so hard that my dad just told me he never wanted to speak to me again because I was a horrible daughter for making my own mother, who gave me life, cry like that. But I don't care. They can think I'm crazy. I know I'm not, and that's enough for me. If anyone's crazy, it's my parents. Though, to be fair, my sister isn't all that sane either. Update 4. It's been a month since my last update, and I haven't been in contact with anyone from my family, not Julie, and definitely not my parents. All I know is that they're still sending her money. As for my soon-to-be ex-husband, I've heard from a couple of people that he's now living with his parents. Once the divorce is finalized, he plans to move to another state. Before you ask, I have no idea what he's going to do about his child. At this point, pretty much all our friends know exactly what happened, and most of them have started cutting him out of their lives. Well, most of them. Some people don't want to get involved and are trying to stay neutral. All I know is that my life is slowly but surely getting back on track, and I'll do whatever it takes to protect my peace from now on. I'm not exactly happy, but at least I'm at peace, which is an improvement from last month. Little by little, I know I'll be happy again. I mean, bad things always come to an end eventually, right? Update 5. I have a fresh update because some things have happened that you might want to know about. So I won't leave you hanging. Julie lost the pregnancy, and she's been blaming me for it. According to her, the stress I caused her is the reason she miscarried. My parents are on the same bandwagon. The good thing is that they're not bothering me directly. These are just things I'm hearing from so-called neutral people. You know, the ones who claim they don't want to take sides but somehow still feel comfortable accusing me of killing a child out of pride. I find it funny because none of them have actually taken Julie into their homes. So, by their own logic, shouldn't they be just as guilty as I am? I tried to be a good sister to her. I helped her when I could. But if she betrays me, then she's no different from a stranger to me. She's not my responsibility anymore. If she really cared about her pregnancy, maybe she shouldn't have slept with someone else's husband, let alone her own sister's. Or at the very least, she could have used protection. None of this makes sense in the little fantasy world some people live in, but I don't care. When accusations come from people as irrational as them, they're not worth my time. Update 6. My ex-husband reached out to me a few hours ago, and you won't believe what he had to say. No, he didn't ask me to take him back. We haven't exactly ended things on bad terms, relatively speaking, which is why I answered. He's owned up to his mistakes like a man, and at least he made the divorce process easy for me. So I don't hold a grudge. Honestly, I do it more for myself. It's just not worth my time to hate him or think about him at all. No cheater is. But what he had to say was interesting, because he basically confirmed that my sister was never pregnant. He called to tell me because he knew a lot of people were talking badly about me and felt I needed to know the truth. He also made sure to tell those people as well. He figured it out because he had repeatedly asked her for proof of the pregnancy and had offered to go with her to doctor's appointments, but she always dodged it. Then, suddenly, she lost the baby. When he asked for proof, she didn't have any. He even talked to my parents, and they didn't have any proof either. There's no evidence she was ever pregnant or that she ever had a miscarriage. One day, she just woke up and told everyone she had lost the baby. And that's that. And here's a huge middle finger to everyone who accused me of making her lose the baby. Now my parents are suddenly trying to contact me to repair our relationship, and they've even stopped supporting my sister now that they're not going to be grandparents. But that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care what they do with my sister now. What I wanted was for them to support me, like any decent parents would when their daughter is betrayed. So, no, the middle finger is for them too. So, let's recap. My sister lost a sister, a house, and my help because she slept with my husband and faked a pregnancy. And my parents lost a daughter because they chose a fake pregnancy over me. Honestly, I think all three of them should just go to Vegas and gamble. Maybe they'll have better luck there.